You're listening to The Frequency of Creativity with Melinda Harr Curley.
Welcome, everyone, to The Frequency of Creativity, where we are at the intersection of energy and art. I'm your host, Melinda Harr Curley, and to see how I energize my paintings through nature and light, sign up for my newsletter at melindaharrcurley.com. You'll see my latest work, my upcoming exhibits, and my occasional giveaways of small prints. And you'll get links to the latest podcasts as well. melindaharrcurley.com. Today, I'm excited to talk with Leah Guzman about her upcoming book, The Art of Healing and Manifesting. Welcome, Leah.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me here, Melinda.
And thanks for being with us today. Leah, I'm excited to talk about your new book, and you've already written 2 books on art therapy. So tell us about your new book that's coming out.
Yeah, so the new book that's coming out is called The Art of Healing and Manifesting, Creative Exercises for Living in Abundance. And this book, I've been wanting to write it for about 7 years. And I finally said, you know what? It's time. It's time to show up and follow through. Because what I've learned in my practice as an artist and art therapist is that when you have a desire, when you want to put yourself out there as a creative, or you want to manifest something in your life, there has to be an alignment of your energy, of getting in connection with source, getting really clear about what you want. And sometimes there needs to be some healing to happen in order to get there. So what I've done is I've taken that knowledge as an artist, and I've created some exercises and my knowledge as an art therapist and put them together, what I've been using in my practice. So I have a signature program called The Art of Healing and Manifesting. And so I support creatives in up-leveling every area of their life. So when you were looking at, if you're wanting to manifest a lover, or, step into your power as a creative and put your work out there, or if you're, wanting to bring in more money or more joy, whatever that is. And the book is giving you creative exercises to heal, but also to manifest. So it's really looking at the law of attraction. It's looking at chakra knowledge, and it's looking at art therapy as a way to, tune in and use your art as your superpower to get what you want.
Oh, and I love that, Leah, because we're on the Superpower Network. So I love using art as your superpower. Leah, we're going to have to take a short break right now. And before we do, can you share with our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at leahguzman.com, which is my website. And then I'm also on Instagram at Leah Guzman Art and Art Therapy online.
Thank you. And please stay with us, because we are going to go much more deeply into the art of healing and manifesting. We're back with the frequency of creativity, where we are at the intersection of energy and art. We're talking about art as healing and manifesting with Leah Guzman. So Leah, you said in describing your new book, you said that the art of healing and manifesting is your signature program, and that you've been working with this program that you developed for a number of years. Tell us, how do you work with clients in helping them to heal and manifest in using art?
Well, we're looking at what my client's desire is. It's getting really clear about what your goals are and what's the big dream. What's your big reality that you want to be stepping into? So once we're able to do that, we can look at, well, what are those blocks? what do you think that is stopping you? So it could be that you're anxious. It could be like past traumas. It could be just like need to work on your self-confidence, or need to learn, more about business aspects. There could be a variety of things. What could be stopping you? So what we do is we utilize the art. We meet online, and I guide them through processes to help them get through those limiting beliefs and be able to change their mindset, and then really step into and take those next steps, those baby steps, to get them where they want to go, right? Get them to that place of showing up for themselves, to show up authentically, to share their services, share their art with the world.
Well, what are the kinds of arts that you have your clients do as part of this program?
Yeah. So it could be for, like I said, like stepping into that desire, that reality. So it's actually creating that. Like they will do imagery about that look like for them. So if it is manifesting a new bathroom and kitchen, which I did just recently, is like that was something that I desired, right? And so I created that, right? It's almost like a vision board, but you're bringing it with your own artistic skills. And then, like I said, I also mentioned it, what are those blocks too? So it's diving deep into looking at, okay, what are my limiting beliefs? What am I telling myself of why I can't have what I want, right? So it's really identifying what that is, drawing it out, because we have these little monsters. Could be our ego. It could be, some childhood trauma that creeps in and tells us that we can't do it, that we're stupid or small. So we really look at it like we'll create the art about that and really get in touch with it and learn that we can befriend that fear, because the fear is always going to be there, and learn how to show up with it as well.
Mm-hmm. So, Leah, I'm so excited that we are going to have a part 2 of this podcast, that it will be a separate recording, and that you will actually guide us through one of these processes in the book so that our audience can experience what it's like to go through one of these processes and looking at blocks. So Leah, can you just share with us a little bit and give us a little taste of what that process will be?
Yes. Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to focus on a focus wheel. That's what we're going to do. We're going to actually create a focus wheel so that you can look at every area of your life. So we'll do 8 different sections of this pie and really look at what we want for each section. So it's whether it's our relationships, with our money, with our work that we do, with our health, your spirituality, self-care, all these different areas. And we're going to be able to rate ourselves, kind of see where we're at now, and then where we want to go, and get really clear, because for us to get to one point to the other, we got to know where we're going. So it's giving you the opportunity to look at what you want and kind of assess where you're at, and then take identify those next steps of how you're going to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're really excited to have that actual process that you guide us through as a whole separate podcast, so that everyone that's listening and perhaps watching on the YouTube channel, that will be part 2 of Art of Healing and Manifesting, and we'll all get to experience this process with Leah that has been so successful with so many of her clients. Leah, can you share with us like some of the changes that your clients have made in working through this program with you?
Yeah, most definitely. The benefits are really focusing on the self-care aspect. So it's creating that structure throughout your day so that you giving yourself time for your creativity, so you can actually get into that creative flow, taking care of your health, your body, putting yourself first so that you have a full cup, and so that you can able, to help others. Because a lot of times we're always giving, and not really getting to a structure. So that's the main thing. So like once we're able to get that that self-care need, that's first. Then we're looking at what are those other desires and stepping into that. So I've had clients who wanted to have their artwork in shows and build websites and putting their work out there, and they haven't done that yet, and they did. They're very proud of themselves. I had one client that really wanted to heal her relationship with money, and realizing when she, understanding her blocks and her limiting beliefs. And then when we did art about it, she created her money monster, and she really got intimate with that and realized that these beliefs came from her parents, and that how she was able to really look at that and start changing that talk with herself. And then she created her money honey. And the funniest part of that is that
I love that. Her money honey.
Yeah, her money honey was actually, it was a male figure, a very handsome male figure. And she actually wanted to manifest the lover too. So, just a few months after that, because we identified all the things that she wanted in her lover, she got together with this man who she's still with. It looked just like her money honey. I was shocked. I was like, do you remember this image that you created? And she was shocked too. She's like, it really is. It's a match. So it's amazing how, what you can create in your art, how you can manifest things. You can bring it, they literally attract it to you by creating it.
So Leah, when you work with people, do they draw with charcoal? Do they paint with watercolor? Do you have them work with clay? Specifically, what kind of art do you have your clients do?
Yeah, so that's where I get to use my knowledge as an art therapist, and I can pick out things like materials that will like most benefit them. So a lot of times I'm working with what the client is comfortable with, and I might push them a little bit. So we do use a lot of assorted drawing materials such as markers and color pencils, which has a lot of control. But if I'm really wanting to like a client to express an emotion and release whatever that energy is, I will go into a more fluid painting. Well, let's get it out in another way. And if I have a client that's dealing with like a lot of like anxiety, then I really want them to get grounded. So I'm going to ask them to get some clay and use clay to absorb that energy and create art around that, and create whatever it is I'm guiding them that we're working on, that they want to either heal or manifest. So it's kind of like they go together. But like I said, you usually have to do the healing part to get to that manifesting part.
So Leah, you have 2 books you wrote on art therapy. You are a board certified art therapist.
Yes.
Can you share with us exactly what art therapy is?
Yes. So art therapy is a mental health profession where it's a relationship between a client and the therapist, and we're utilizing art as a means to express emotions. So if you were going to go to a mental health counselor or psychologist to like talk about your feelings, you're using words, right? So there's that verbal language. We are talking in therapy, but we're using the arts as a means to communicate. So we're using the symbols, picking out different symbols, picking out different colors, and even like the lines and how you create it is an expression. So we are, our therapist guides the client into creating, and then we're reflecting on it. So we're reflecting on it by your expression, but also how is it relating to your life?
That sounds really interesting.
It is fun.
So, as I mentioned earlier, and you say this on your website too, you say very prominently on your website that art is your superpower. So Leah, how do you use art as your superpower?
Well, it's always been there for me. It's been there when in the tough times, it's been there in the good times. And I just know that I can always use it to create what I want. Like I know that, like I was saying, like I can use it to manifest. And what's beautiful about the art is that I see it as more like an oracle for me, so that where Sometimes if I am confused or if I'm lost, I can use the art as a way to get messages from the divine, from source energy, because there's always something there. There's always some sort of meaning that I can like look at it and say, okay, what do I need to know? Or what's my next best step? And intuitively, I'll get the downloads like, oh, this is what it means. And that's what I get to help my clients with as well. Is like, well, what does this mean for you? And what do you think that next best step is? So I'm assisting them in learning about their own self and learning about their art as well, like, because it has messages through those symbols and colors that you're using.
Leah, I'm listening to you and you sound so adept at what you're doing. I see the passion in you about it and the love for this work. Leah, how did you come to art? And then how did you come to helping others as a therapist through art?
That's a great question. Well, I've always been an artist all my life. And in high school, I actually had a really turbulent time because we moved around a lot because my mom's job I went to 3 different states, 3 different high schools. And like I said, in the tough times, like my art was always there, right?
Mm,
And so it was during that time that someone had asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I told them that I loved psychology, I loved art. And they sent me this article about a little boy who had cancer and he had an art therapist. And the art therapist was helping him draw out little Pac-Man eating away his cancer cells.
mm.
And he eventually went through remission and didn't have cancer anymore. And I was like, wow, it's really beautiful, to be at a time in your life where you feel like you don't have control, but you got your art, right? And eating away those cancer cells. So I was like, I want to do that because I knew that it was helping me, even though I didn't have an art therapist at the time, but I knew that I could help other people because I knew how powerful it was. So I knew I was going to go to college and I studied art. And then to be an art therapist, you have to get your master's. So that's when I got my master's in art therapy. And, I've had times in my life where I wasn't creating. And those were the dark times. Those are the times where, my own anxiety or bouts of depression kind of came up and snuck in. And then I realized, again, that I need the art. It's like that one hand that you have, and the other hand I can give. So as long as I'm able to balance and be in alignment with myself, having that connection, because like I said, the art is that connection to source, like it feeds me, right? So that I can have that full cup. And so when I realized that I needed both of those, it helps me be able to give to others and share that practice of art therapy.
So, and Leah, several times now you've referenced, and I don't know if these are your exact words, connecting to source.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have certain practices that you do to help you to connect through source? Or does your art connect you to source? Or what do you even mean by connecting to source?
Another good question. Yeah, it's great. I feel that, having a variety of ways to connect to source, and meaning that it's connecting to your higher self. It's connecting to whether you want to call it God or universe, or it's really being in tune with your intuition and feeling and guided on your journey. Like there's this higher power that can guide you. So I do many different things. Like I wake up every morning and I meditate like at 5 a.m. and then I journal. And through that practice, I feel like I get those downloads. It gives me the downloads of what my priorities are going to be for the day. And I do create throughout the day. I get little pockets of time where I get to create. So that's another way to connect with source. Just being outside in nature is another one. So I feel like there's many different avenues of connecting. Art is one, but I know that if I'm not practicing those self-care, I'm off, and it doesn't feel as good. Like I don't feel purpose. I don't feel in alignment. Like I said, the anxiety will show up. I won't be in a good mood. That is happy. And I won't have anything to share or give. So it's really important for me to be my best self and to have that self-care. And that's what I teach others too, is, put yourself first, give yourself that love. You have to love yourself up in order to like to give more.
So you talked about connecting with your higher self,
Mhm.
and then you have a whole series of your own artwork that's
Mm.
called the Higher Self series. Why don't you talk about your own artwork and your higher self, that series?
Yeah, so that's a little collection that I just started actually, and I love birds, and birds are little messengers to me, and it's so funny. Like even crows, like they'll come out of nowhere. I'm like, what is going on? It's like they want to tell me something, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, like I have this interesting connection with birds, and maybe because I'm looking for them, or maybe because I'm appreciating them, but they just keep showing up. So when they are showing up to me and in my life, and I have a really nice backyard, they'll come in my backyard. I just want to paint them. So it's funny when I started like looking up the meanings of the birds. 'Cause that's what I always think it's funny. Is like, what is showing up in your life? It doesn't have to be a bird. It could be whatever animal or something that's showing up in your life. Look up the meaning, right?
Right.
Uh, and then when you look up the meaning, you're like, wow, that's really powerful. I can see how that's a connection
Mhm.
to me. So it's like their little message for me. And then when I write down the meanings for each of the birds that show up, I've had the people who actually bought some of those paintings say, wow, that really it speaks to me, because I feel like I'm in that point of my life as
Mm,
well.
mm. So interesting. And then I love the other, and my favorite, and I love all of your work. And my favorite series is the Emotional Landscape series. Share with us your inspiration and meaning behind that series of paintings.
Yeah, so that one's more abstract. So for me, it's
And I'm an
more.
abstract painter, so
That's
obviously
probably
that's
why.
why I'm drawn to the more abstract, your more abstract work.
Yeah, I kind of like to go in both little worlds, painting from real life, but also painting from the abstract. But the abstract is actually, it is the ocean. Like I feel so calm and so at peace. And I live near the ocean. I live in Miami, Florida. So like the water is like a mile from my house. So I go to the beach often. I just go look at the ocean, and it brings me to this space of just calm. Like it just washes away everything, where I don't have to think about, I don't know, I could just be really, really present. And so this series, it's mainly blue because I'm really attracted to blue. But I call it the emotional, I'm gonna go landscapes, seascapes, emotional scapes. It's definitely, I wanted to create that sense of calmness and tranquility. And it was just like a release for me to keep me there. And so
Mhm.
when I created this series, that's kind of the feedback that I got. It's like, I did this for myself. I always do it for myself first.
Yeah.
And then when I put it out there, it was interesting to see people's reaction to it, because they're like, I feel so peaceful when I look at that. I feel like that tranquility. I was like, yes, that's what that was my intention for creating the series. And I want to bring that peace, into your home, into your space. So that's part of that process of me creating it.
Leah, this is a hard question for an artist, and you may or may not be able to answer it. And if you can't, that's fine.
Okay.
As an artist, and this is what we talk about on this show,
Mhm.
because it's so fascinating to me. As an artist, how do you think that you imbued the energy of peace in a painting? How do you do that? And are you able to answer that question?
Yeah. So just to make sure I'm answering correctly, how do I um, embody that
Imprint,
imprint into the painting?
translate.
For me, it's how I show up and what my intention is. So, like I said, like I want to be in that peace state for that series. I'm going to be in that peaceful state as I create it. I create really ugly art too, but it might not be what I'm selling because I'm not showing that. But it's like if I need to be cathartic and get that anger out, let me let it out.
Yeah.
But for that particular series, like I said, I'm going to the beach every day. I remember I made it last summer. And we took many trips to the beach, and I would just come home. I'm so inspired, and being in that space, I felt that that energy was being transcribed, sublimated into that work. So yeah, that's kind of where, that's how I feel like it comes through, because of my own energy is being transpired into it.
And that interests me so much that
Mhm.
you're in that space. And I kind of do, and the audience that has listened to this podcast before know that I painted a log cabin out in the woods.
Nice.
And I had the similar experience. And I'm really quiet and resonate so much with the nature, and I'm in that space, then that energy then becomes the energy of the painting. Then it's always amazing to me how other people will pick up on that energy.
Mhm.
Like yours is peace, and your emotional landscapes that look very much like water and seascapes, and mine are all abstract. Well, we're both talking about abstract paintings here. And so do you have any insight into that? How people pick up on that energy in a painting, or how they're able to?
Yeah, I think it's that intuitive sense of, sort of like a gut feeling of whether you even like a piece of art or not. It's just, it's, if you're drawn to it, and if you can feel it.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, people that are in, I go back and forth for like, if someone's in anguish, I mean, I can sense that. And I'm pretty much an empath as well. I can sense their energy when they create it. But if I think the work will hold it, you could see it in the lines, and how they, put the marks on the paper. You can sense that. And I think there's a lot of highly sensitive people out there that can sense it as well. You don't have to be an artist, but I think that as intuitives and empaths, you can feel that energy, and you could see it in the work.
Well, let's say if you're not
Mhm.
an empath and you're not an intuitive, do you
Mhm.
think this is something that you can learn?
Yeah, I think that art is another tool, another visual communication tool. It's another language, and you can learn the language. Uh, and yeah, and it's just getting in touch with it, practicing it, right? So the more that you practice it for yourself, and you can take classes, of course, but if you have that intimate connection with it, I think that, yeah, you learn things about yourself. I mean, Carl Jung, he's one of the great
Mm.
psychoanalysts. He created art for 365 days. He wasn't known as an artist, but he created little mandalas for
I did
365
not
days.
know that. And I
Yeah,
love Carl Jung.
yeah.
And I did not know that he practiced art.
Yeah, so he realized that within each of those mandalas, his emotion coming up, and there was a connection between his emotions, emotional state, and the little drawings that he was creating. So yeah, you definitely, it's just about nurturing it.
Now, thank you for that. I did not know that about Carl Jung.
Mhm.
Um, in working with a number of people, have you experienced people becoming more intuitive and more sensitive through making art?
Oh, most definitely. That's what I'm saying. Is like that connection with the higher self. I think it's like one of the best compliments people can give me, of like, wow, you showed me a strength that I didn't have. You like taught me this like new language. You taught me like this new gift. I'm like, yes, because you're practicing. You did the work. You showed up.
So, Leah, my last question, when I go on your website and your logo is your name with the key, and then
Mhm.
on your website you have a necklace with the key. Oh, do you have it on?
Yes, I have it on.
Your key necklace. So what's that about? What is the key about?
Yeah, when I first started showing up and like sharing my art with the world, I was like, I wanted to have a logo, and I was like, what should my logo be? And I really love the idea of like connecting mind, body, and soul. And I feel like that's what my practice is. And so the key is kind of like unlocking that. It's like that, when I talk about connection to source, that's what I feel like it's like an unlocking. And then I put little hearts, 3 little hearts. It's like an old style key. So yeah, that's what I feel like that's about. And so I actually I had my friend make this for me. And then I actually made a series of silver ones as well. This is gold, made 1 gold and then 16 silver ones. And I sold them when I had created that set. Yeah.
Oh, Leah, is there any, as we close this up, is there anything that you want to share, or is there anything that you want our audience to know, or?
Yeah, I actually I have a free Facebook group that like you could join. It's called the Creative Soul Online Retreat. And what's nice about this Facebook group is that every few months I'll do online events. So that's why online retreat, because I'll do different art experiences with different themes, whether it's about creating abundance in your life, or if it's about getting into the creative flow or finding meaning in your work, those type of themes. So if you are interested in just kind of experimenting or dabbling, you're welcome to join us. It's a really great group of individuals.
And Leah, share with our audience one more time the other places that they can find you.
Oh, okay, great. So there's my website. There's leahguzman.com. And then there's also, I'm on Instagram as Leah Guzman Art, and then Art Therapy Online.
And I just want to remind the audience one more time, we will be doing a second part of this podcast where Leah will be leading us through an experience. So you'll get the full 30-minute experience of this process from her new book, Art of Healing and Manifesting. Leah, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Melinda. It was a great chat.
It was a great honor to have you on. And thank you for being with us on the frequency of creativity, where we are at the intersection of energy and art. To see how I energize paintings through nature and light, sign up for my newsletter at melindaharrcurley.com. You'll see my new work, my gallery exhibits coming up, and notices of the occasional giveaways of small prints that I have. And also you'll get the links to the latest podcast, melindaharrcurley.com. Now, today, be the art of your own healing and manifesting.